Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Nur Aina Nadira and I will present about the introduction and main objectives of the report. In this report, it mentioned about Malaysia in glance. In 2018, Malaysia population is estimated to be 32.4 million with 29.1 million citizens and 3.3 million non-citizens. Next, in this report, it also mentioned how Malaysia government is very committed to the Sustainable Development Agendas. The Sustainable Development Goals (SDGs) are integrated into the mid-term review of the 11th Malaysia Plan. Aside that, Malaysia has established a multi-stakeholder participatory governance structure helmed by the National SDG Council, which was chaired by the Prime Minister to plan and monitor the SDGs implementation in the country. In this report, they present 118 indicators of the 17 goals, which have been identified as available in the initial assessment report. However, in this analysis, we'll be focusing on several pressing SDGs such as no poverty, zero hunger, good health and well-being, quality education, decent work and economic growth, and the most highlighted in this analysis will be on the affordable and clean energy goals. Next, I will explain about the main objectives of the report. First of all, it is to highlight the progress of the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development in Malaysia by the year 2018. Next, it is to present internationally approved targets and indicators based on Malaysia data availability. This report also serves as a subsequent report from the initial assessment of Sustainable Development Goals indicators from Malaysia 2018. This report objectives also include making the data available to the government, private sector, academics, non-governmental organizations, NGOs, and individuals as a source of information.
So, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. So, I'm going to talk about the important measures. And for the first article, we use the impact of natural resources, renewable energy, economic growth on carbon dioxide emission in Malaysia. So the article used time series data for 10 years, which is from 1988 to 2017 using the eView software, and also they use the quantitative methods. So there are a few tests that conducted for these articles, which is heterostochasticity test, unit root, correlation test, and also Riemann test. So as you can see in the slide, there's the equations for the model test. And also it is discovered that the renewable energy has a negative impact on CO2 emission. Natural resources have a positive impact on CO2 emission, and also lastly, economic expansion has a positive impact on CO2 emission. The slide is the influence of energy consumption, renewable energy, and economic growth on CO2 emission in Malaysia and Indonesia. So they employ the secondary data on carbon dioxide emissions, energy consumption, real GDP per capita, and also renewable energy. So they use a few tests, which is Mentity Fuller, ADF, co-integration test, and Philip Parent PP test, and vector error correction model VECM is being used. So as you can see in the slides, the equation. Also, we have another articles that we use as well. However, there is no measurement operation in that we use.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Syafiq Syahmi bin Zulkifli, 1914637. I will present about the relevant findings and insight. For the goal 7 of SDG, which is affordable and clean energy. The consumption of energy led to the growth of carbon emissions. There is correlation between energy consumption and economic development. This is because the structural changes in economic transition contribute to significant rise in energy consumption from agriculture sector to the industry sector. Malaysia has recorded 7.98 tons per capita in 2020. As the picture below, transportation dominate the final use by sector, which is 36.4%. Which is and why the lowest is agriculture for just 0.5%. Malaysia renewable energy was 5.5% of total final energy consumption in 2019. Non-renewable energy totally dominate the energy generated in 2019, which is 84%, while non-renewable energy just only 16% in 2019. It is important to note that the Malaysian policy should focus by utilizing all potential of renewable energy to achieve energy efficiency and at the same time to reduce the carbon emission. In this part, I will talk about the Goal 4 or Sustainable Development Goals, which is quality education. Malaysia government has allocated 21.1% in education of total expenditure against total federal expenditure in budget 2021. In Malaysia education, the participation in tertiary education still lowest, which deal with 3.1% of the gross enrollment ratio. Malaysia has launched the Malaysia Education Blueprint 2013 to 2025 to provide equitable and quality educations. In SDG, there is Education for Sustainable Development (ESD), which aims to enhance inclusive and equitable education and promote lifelong learning opportunities by 2030. It is suggested that Malaysia integrate the Malaysia Blueprint Education with the ESD for the clearer coordination and roadmap in the future. Goal 2 of Sustainable Development Goals describe the zero hunger. Malaysia achieved 12.8 a score, which describe Malaysia in a moderate position for a level hunger in 2021. For food security, Malaysia ranked at place 39 in the Global Food Security Index for 2021 out of 113 countries. The climate crisis distress the agriculture sector that affects food security in the future. According to ASEAN State of Climate Change Report 2021, a 2% increase in temperature could result in 1 ton per hectare decrease in rice yields. Therefore, the National Food Security Action is a strategy to aim for food stability in the country in Malaysia that focus on availability, access, consumption and stability and sustainability for food security in Malaysia. Last one is Malaysian Innovation in Industry. National Investment Aspiration (NIA) aim to attract the right investment and build innovation capacity and increase productivity growth. Malaysia government has allocated 1 billion ringgit for technology and high value added investment for budget 2021, which support research and development in aerospace and electronics, while about 500 million ringgit to support companies in the high technology and innovation sectors. Through the focus in innovation and technology, it will boost productivity through improved process and technology that can help sustain long-term economic growth.
Assalamualaikum, my name is Aisha and I'll start with the critical analysis. Since the first nuclear plant started operational in the 1950s, the world is highly divided on the ongoing nuclear debate since people are highly concerned about nuclear energy. This is because while nuclear energy is promoted as a greener substitute for fossil fuels, nuclear energy is also linked to some of the world's most destructive and deadly weapons as well as tragedies. So the question of if the government should create rooms for more fossil fuels and renewable energy sources, or should they remain dependent on nuclear energy for their quest for net zero carbon emissions, but at the cost of people's concerns, will be discussed in the terms of advantages and disadvantages of nuclear energy. Firstly, when talking about the advantages, nuclear energy is environmentally friendly and produces no greenhouse gas emissions. Currently, fossil fuels generate 2/3 of world's electricity, and when fossil fuels are burned, greenhouse gases such as carbon dioxide and nitrous oxide are released into the atmosphere. In contrast, cooling towers at nuclear power plants only release water vapor and not any pollutants or radioactive substances. Many analysts and nuclear energy loyalists claim that nuclear energy is among the purest sources of energy available today, and nuclear power is liable for world's fastest decarbonization effort, citing countries such as France and Canada as examples of countries that build nuclear reactor and hydroelectric dams to achieve the fastest reduction in carbon intensity and a clean energy transition. Furthermore, when compared to fossil fuels, nuclear energy is regarded to be a considerably safer option because nuclear waste is far less harmful than the poisonous compounds produced in fossil fuels. In fact, according to the report by NASA in 2013, nuclear energy produces the fewest deaths per unit of energy produced. Coal and oil, on the other hand, are silent killers accountable for 1 in every 5 fatalities worldwide, while fossil fuel killed 8.7 million people worldwide in 2018 alone. As for nuclear power, only 3 mishaps happened in nearly 70 years since nuclear power was introduced: the 1979 Three Mile Island accident, the 1986 Chernobyl tragedy, and the 2011 Fukushima nuclear disaster. Out of this, only the disaster in the Chernobyl nuclear power plant in Ukraine resulted in any deaths, and that too was due to the facility's age and inadequate maintenance. The 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development, which includes 17 Sustainable Development Goals, was endorsed by UN member states in 2015. Nuclear technology, according to study, can help reduce hunger, enhance health, provide access to affordable and clean energy, create jobs, promote economic development, and mobilize climate action, can be related to Goal 2, 3, 7, 8, and 13 respectively. For example, according to Goal 2, Zero Hunger, nuclear technology can help in the development of new plant varieties, allowing farmers to cultivate crops that use less water and being more adaptable to climate change. Next, according to Goal 3, Good Health and Well-being, nuclear materials are necessary for medical research since they are utilized to examine specific compounds within the body, such as cancer. Furthermore, according to Goal 7, Affordable and Clean Energy, it is argued that because the demand of electricity is increasing as a result of growing global population, moving to clean technologies such as nuclear energy is critical in order to reduce carbon emissions when compared to fossil fuels. As for Goal 8, Decent Work and Economic Growth, a new nuclear plant creates thousands of employments on-site and thousands more in the supply chain, as well as opportunities for broader investment that improves local economies. Finally, according to Goal 13, Climate Action, nuclear power facilities prevent the release of nearly 2 billion tons of carbon dioxide into the environment each year.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Mohammed Mirzan, and I will be talking about the suggestions that the government could do to improve the implementation of nuclear energy as a source of clean energy in Malaysia. But before I go into that, I'll talk about the issues that nuclear energy have been facing. Despite various efforts to implement nuclear energy as a source of power generation, the program have faced severe political opposition in the year 1980s until the 2000s. So in 2010, the government took some initiative and established a national nuclear power policy, and also established the Malaysian Nuclear Power Corporation to speed up the construction of nuclear power plants. However, the Malaysian nuclear program was cancelled after the incident in Fukushima. This has caused a stigma towards the fear of environmental effects of nuclear energy and the stigma of radioactive contamination. So, continuing to the suggestions, first is Malaysia should take into account international consideration. The government should also take into account and do some studies on the impact and effects of nuclear power generation from an international perspective, because there are a lot of laws and regulation that a country has to follow before implementing a nuclear power plant within their country. Next is public acceptance. Due to the fear and stigma from the public towards nuclear energy, the government needs to create a public acceptance program or a program that is similar to that in order to increase the understanding and awareness of nuclear energy generation as clean energy. Next is putting an effort into development in waste management. Malaysia should prepare with precautionary plan if anything ever goes wrong. Precautionary plan of nuclear power plant to malfunction. So they need to study on how to develop a better plan on managing nuclear waste and nuclear disasters. And finally is the transparency. The government should always update current information of every activity that they do, so that this can allow the public to be aware of all their activities, and this can create trust between the two parties, and also can instill confidence within the public to support the elimination of nuclear energy in Malaysia.